You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning. This episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And this is a patron bonus episode, y'all, which I'm supposed to get out like 2 weeks ago, but Thanksgiving happened, and then one of my good friends died, and the COVID, and it was the first eulogy I ever gave at a funeral. But anyway, just crazy time. So here's your episode. I've been thinking about this one for a while, and I really don't know what to name it. It's a crazy story. I'm going to call it Miracle. Okay? So I think it was like 2005, and I was working as a detective for the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, and I was on the day shift, and we went 10-8 or on duty around for 8 o'clock in the morning, and normally, at the time I lived in Watson, and it would take me about 30 minutes to drive in to my office, and I was always early. I'd like to get there a little early and drink a cup of coffee, shoot the shit with the guys and what have you, and get set up for the day and figure out what it was that I was going to do. Well, on this day, I was actually, I was in the office and I sat down. I was having my cup of coffee. I'd been there, I get there like 7:30, 7:45. And I'm just sitting around shooting the shit, looking over some cases, some warrants. I had people I had to arrest and stuff like that. And Tina Stafford, my secretary, the phone rang and she answered it, and then she hung up and she said, "You got to go to Denham Springs." I said, "What happened?" She said, "A dude just ran over his wife." I was like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah." And she was pregnant, and it looks like it's going to be a homicide. So I loaded up and I hauled ass. Probably took me 20 minutes to get there, and it was off of Violet Street, which is north of Denham Springs. And what happened was neighbors called it in that they saw this husband run over his wife with his Jeep. Okay. So I arrive on the scene. Our deputies are already there. The blue and whites are already there. It took me about, like I said, about 20 plus minutes to get there. Acadian was leaving. That's Acadian Ambulance, y'all. That's the ambulance service that serves Livingston Parish. And Acadian was leaving. Deputy that was on scene came up and said, "Hey, man, we got this guy under arrest, and he's in the back of my car." So what happened? He said, "Well, we got the call that he ran over his wife." I said, "Okay." I said, "Was it an accident?" And they said, "She's pregnant, I think 6 months pregnant, y'all, big pregnant, showing pregnant." And
let me describe the residence. You pull up, there was just like a driveway, just enough for 2 cars if you parked one in front of the other. I think there was like a chain link fence, and it was a trailer that sat horizontal with the road. It had some wooden steps that went up to it. And the houses around were a couple of trailers and a couple of small houses. And now this Violet Street really, I mean, it doesn't even have a divider line. It's a single blacktop road, or was at the time. And all the neighbors were out there. It was just kind of a shit show. I mean, everybody was outside, and there was a hollering going on. There were some family members there. But the deputy said he's got the guy under arrest in the back of the car. And I said, well, what happened? I mean, how was she when she left? He said it was bad. And he said she was definitely marked up and injured. And I said, what do you mean marked up? He said, I mean, she had tire tracks and shit on her. I was like, what? He said, Woody, they ran over not once, not twice, but 3 times. I'm like, what? So he said, in that Jeep right there. Now, the Jeep is parked in this little small driveway. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, how in the hell do you run over somebody 3 times with a Jeep? And this Jeep was one of those CJ7s. It had big jacked up mud tires on it, like for mud riding. It was a soft canvas top. It was red in color. And so I'm looking at it and I said, but look, let's call out the crime lab and let's rope off everything, get these people back. So more deputies came on scene. I called it in. I said, you need to send me somebody else over here. And I don't remember who they sent. Send me another detective. Call the crime lab. We're going to have to tow this Jeep in. Obviously, I mean, he ran over his pregnant wife 3 times. I'm thinking certainly it's going to be a homicide. And so we just start to set up the scene, and they push the people back and cordon it off with the crime scene tape and all that. And I told them, so, I'm going to start to talk to witnesses. And I said, well, the neighbors are the one that called it in. And they were standing on the street. I'm not going to say their names. But so I went to talk to them first. I said, hey, I'm Detective Overton with the sheriff's office. Can you tell me what happened? And the guy said, yeah. He said, I heard all this screaming and hollering. And my wife went to the window and she said that, he's out there hollering with his wife, and said, I came to the window and the wife was standing. At the time, there was only the Jeep parked in the driveway, and the wife was standing in front of the Jeep, and he had backed up. The husband, and his name was Gerald. I think it was Gerald Breaux, Breaux. And so the wife, they were arguing, and he got in his Jeep and was preparing to leave. He had backed up, and she came out and was hollering at him over the hood in front of the Jeep. And he was backed up almost onto Violet Street, and gave him probably 2 car lengths to move forward that was standing in between her and the end of the driveway towards the residence. And so anyway, so they were hollering and cursing back and forth, and he just all of a sudden puts it in drive and ran her over. He said, Detective, I've never seen anything like it. He said he went over, and I was like, oh my God. He said the Jeep hit her. She screams. She went down to the ground, and he just bumped over, and all 4 tires. And then she was at the back of it. I was like, damn. And he said, yeah. He said, but that's not the worst of it. He said, when you think it can't get any worse, she's down on the ground and she's obviously hurt. When you think it can't get any worse, he said, I saw all the reverse lights come on, the white lights come on in reverse, and he punches the gas and runs back over her again. Boom, boom. He said all 4 tires. And he's back on the rear end of the Jeep is back on Violet Street. She's laying down in the driveway. She's been run over twice now. He said, and when you think it can't get any worse, he put it in drive again and ran over her again. All 4 tires. He said the Jeep jumped. Boom, boom. All 4 tires. And she was on the ground screaming. He said, I could not believe what I just saw. He said, I ran outside, and a couple of the other neighbors came out also. But he said, I ran outside and I ran to the Jeep, and she's down on the ground, and she's all marked up. He said, shit, I ran into the Jeep, and I reached in the window and I grabbed him around the head, and I ripped the keys out of the Jeep so he couldn't run over her again. He said, and me and a couple of the other neighbors pulled him out, and, well, you know, basically they gently escorted him to the driveway, or made him get some real estate, if you will. And he said, we held him down. And he said, I wasn't going to let him run over again. I mean, it's obvious he was going to. And he said, and somebody called 911. And then, of course, when they got a 911 on the phone, he said, 911, what's your emergency? He said, hey, this guy just ran over his wife 3 times, and she's pregnant, and she's down on the ground, and we're holding him. We'll hold him till the cops get here. And the blue and whites were never really far, y'all, in that area. The west side of the parish, they always had way more deputies than the east side did. They might have 6 or 7, 10, 8, or on duty at one time. And this is a really populated area, so it didn't take them long to get there. And the deputy told me, so when I got there, he said they had him down on the ground. He said, I think they might have got a couple licks in on him. He said he definitely wasn't getting up. All the neighbors were holding him down, and they were screaming, and the woman's on the ground, and she's what is she's pregnant? I mean, like, you see her stomach, but she had tire tracks on her, just the entire body, and she was laying on the ground moaning. And I called for Acadian, and he said they got here really quick. They were somewhere in the area, and, you know, they put her on the board, put her on a stretcher, and took her to the hospital. I'm like, well, and he said she was messed up. He said, you know, I don't know how she's going to live, and you're going to have she's going to be dead, but what about the baby, right? And I said, I don't know, dude. And I said, you know, they can work miracles nowadays with babies and stuff. But I said, I don't know. So work the scene, call for the crime lab, y'all. And the reason we call for the crime lab is the scene's got to be processed. I mean, if we're expecting it to be a homicide. And so if there's skin or whatever underneath the Jeep, you know, the Jeep had to be taken into evidence. We had to establish the chain of custody. And remember, evidence is everything, especially in cases like this. And so as far as I was concerned, that driveway, and the short driveway it was, the driveway and the Jeep are evidence. So we roped it off, waited on the crime lab to get there. And meanwhile, I'm taking statements from all the different neighbors, the ones that held him down. And I said, did he say anything? And he said, no, he cursed us. And he wasn't happy that, you know, we did what we did to him, but we weren't going to let him run over her again. But they all said he ran over her forward. Now, she's standing in front of the vehicle. He had to back out onto Violet Street. The Jeep is facing towards the residence. He had already started to back up some, and she's coming down the driveway hollering at him, and he put it in drive, and he ran her over. Boom, boom. And then that's not good enough. Puts it in reverse, runs her over again, and boom, boom. Well, that would be understandable if he was trying to flee from the scene. Negative. He wasn't done yet. He puts it back in drive and runs over her again. He went forward and ran over her again. And that's when the neighbors got to him and made sure he couldn't do it a 4th time. So, and I'm getting statements from everybody, and we're waiting on the crime lab to get there and all that. And she had been transported to the hospital. And once I got done with the base statements and everything, I got him out of the back of the blue and white. And now everybody's kind of pushed back, so it's not like anybody could hear what I was saying or anything like that. So I got him out. He's handcuffed. And I don't know, he was probably late 30s, early 40s, something like that, and kind of a heavy-set guy. And he had an attitude. I mean, I asked the deputy, I said, when you got there, you advised him his rights? He said, I immediately handcuffed him while he was on the ground. I advised him of his rights. And he said he didn't say anything. He was cursing. He said, but he didn't resist me. So I get him out of the car, and I said, hey, Mr. Bro, I'm Detective Overton with the Sheriff's Office, and you've been advised of your Miranda rights. He said, yeah, I've been advised of them. I said, well, I'm going to advise you again. And so I did. I read him his rights. And I said, do you want to tell me what happened today? I mean, you want to consent to questioning, or, I said, it doesn't matter to me. I said, you got all these people out here that saw you run over your wife. And I said, and she's pregnant. And I said, how far? And I think he said 6 months. And, but he was sober. I mean, he wasn't drunk. He wasn't high. His pupils weren't dilated. None of that.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey, y'all. Changing my wardrobe from summer to fall, it's never easy. Luckily, Quince offers timeless and high-quality items I adore, ensuring my wardrobe stays fresh and I don't blow my budget. And there's nothing easier than going to Quince and choosing these high-quality items, like cashmere sweaters from $50, pants for every occasion, washable silk tops, and so much more. The best part? All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes, and I love that. I got the stainless steel Link Apple Watch band for $59.90. It's heavy duty, it's awesome, and it's like $100 less than I could find anywhere else. And I also got a 100% organic cotton fisherman quarter zip up sweater. The color is alabaster. Man, I can't wait to wear that this fall. And Cindy got the Mongolian cashmere boat neck sweater in heather gray. And I'm telling you, these are classic pieces at a fraction of the price. Make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/RLRC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/RLRC to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/RLRC. You'll thank me later.
And I said, well, I mean, what do you have to say for yourself? He said, I ain't saying shit. I said, well, guess what, motherfucker? You don't have to, because I got God and everybody out here that saw you. Not only did they see you, they pulled your ass out of the vehicle and restrained you so you couldn't run over your wife a fourth time. I said, so I don't need you. We're going to finish processing the scene, and I'm going to send you to the jail, and I'm going to come up there and book you in after I go see your wife and unborn baby at the hospital, which I would assume if you ran over them 3 times with that big-ass Jeep, that they're probably dead. And so the crime lab came, and we have to process the vehicle, or we had to inventory the vehicle, if you will, before we took it in or let them take it in. And I remember going to the vehicle. Y'all, you have a vehicle inventory log sheet where you go through and you write down certainly anything of value, like firearms or wallet or whatever. But this Jeep was filthy. I remember going into it. I don't know who was on the other side with me. There must have been 100 empty packs of Camel cigarettes, right? And I mean, you're not going to put that down, all the trash that was in there. But he had some clothing. I think he's from down south, like Pierre Part or somewhere like that, down in Cajun land. And he had like work clothing. It was just full of shit. I mean, it was nasty. It was full of trash and clothing. And I think we listed the clothing and whatever else we may have found. Maybe some tools. I think maybe he worked on an oil rig offshore or something, and he was in on his days off. They worked like 7 on, 7 off. But there was nothing of value. And then we went through. I went through. We always go through cigarette packs looking for dope, or crack pipes or glass sticks, whatever you want to call them. We were looking for any kind of narcotics or anything illegal in the vehicle when we're processing it. So the reason you do that is, so when you send it in and you have that inventory sheet, then if they find something else, which they wouldn't because we went through it very thorough, but a defense attorney can't come back and say, well, you planted whatever it was in the vehicle. So we did a thorough inventory of the Jeep, period. Thorough. And then it's important. I'll tell you why later. So inventory of the vehicle, and the crime lab comes and we call for a 79. A 79 is a tow truck, and the 79 comes and we load it up, and I've got all the witness statements, and there was a bunch of them, and the news was there by that time, and the neighborhood, it was like entertainment. I don't know if nobody had a job or whatever, I don't know, but it was a shit ton of people. And everybody gave the statements about the verbal argument and about him running over her, putting it in drive and running over her forwards, and then putting it in reverse, running over backwards again. Imagine that now. This big Jeep running over your pregnant wife, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So by the time the tow truck comes, and we process the scene and get all the statements and everything like that. Well, and I had told the deputies, I said, go ahead and take him to the jail, put him in the booking room. Don't let him talk to anybody. Do not let him have a phone call. Don't do shit till I get there to book him. And y'all, you see in the movies, they say, you get a phone call and all that shit. Well, yeah, they're going to let you call somebody, but not before you get booked, okay? So I wanted him secluded, if you will, until I had a chance to at least, talk to him again face to face. And I wanted to find out about the wife. First, was she alive? I mean, I needed to know what to charge him with. I knew, right, she was breathing when they left. And so I know I got attempted murder, right? But if she died or the baby died, and I have attempted second-degree murder, probably could have been, it would have been first had the baby died. But anyway, so long story short, I load up, and I go to the hospital, and I would go to the emergency room, and I walk up, and you have to badge yourself in through security and all that. I said, hey, I'm here for such and such. And they were like, the security guard said, okay, hold on. And he went and checked, and he came back and said, we don't have anybody here by that name. I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, we don't have anybody here by that name. I said, well, hold on. So I called the radio room. I said, where did Acadian take this victim? Well, now it's been a couple hours, y'all. I said, where did Acadian take this victim to? And they said they took it to that hospital. It was, I think it was called Oshner's at the time. It was the first hospital across the river in East Baton Rouge Parish with an emergency room. At the time, Livingston Parish didn't have a hospital. Now I think they have several. But there was nowhere to take a victim of the crime. That was the closest place that you took them for trauma, right? Like gunshots or bad wrecks or whatever it may be. And so I said, are you sure? And I said, call Acadian and make sure. And they said, why? I said, because they're saying this lady's not here. And they said, hold on. And then they called Acadian and said, no, they dropped her off there, several hours ago. And so I told the security guard, I said, I need to talk to the head ER doctor. And he escorted me back, and I told the doc who I was and why I was there. And I said, listen, this dude ran over his wife 3 times with a Jeep, and she was pregnant. And he said, detective, you are never going to believe this. I said, what? He said, she was fine. I said, what do you mean she was fine? He said she had tire tracks on her legs and her back, but no broken bones. And she was released. I said, no. I said, I don't understand that. I said, doc, this is a big-ass red CJ7 Jeep with mud tires on it. I said, you're telling me she had tire tracks on her legs and her back, which means, he said, detective, I examined her. He said, I examined the baby. They listened to the heartbeat on the baby. He said, I'm telling you, she was fine. He said, it was a miracle. He said, I could not believe it. And I said, I was in awe. And I said, but look, I'm going to need her contact information. I got to follow up with her, right? And he said, and I said, are you telling me she didn't even have to stay in for observation? He said, nope, didn't hit her head, ran over her midsection, the stomach, in the back, and her legs. And I said, well, he did it 3 times. He said, I'm telling you, it is a miracle. He said, I've been doing this a long time. He said, just from the tire tracks alone, you would have thought she'd have been crushed and everything. He said, much less the baby, right? He said, but we released her. She wasn't even in that bad of pain by that point in time. He said, we gave her like some Tylenol or ibuprofen or something and released her. I was like, shit, well, I have to go back and interview her, right? And so I was leaving the hospital, and I called the radio room. I said, look, call the residents back and see if she's there, or try to find out where she's at. I said, I'm going to go to the jail and go ahead and book this guy on attempted second-degree murder and try to get a confession out of him, to see what he says. And then I'll tell the family I'll be coming to talk to them. So I go to the jail, and it was the old jail, y'all, and now it's this big fancy detention center and all that. But they had him in a room waiting on me, and I brought him in, and I got out the standard Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office Miranda rights form, and then on the bottom of that form, it has the consent to questioning part, which says, I voluntarily consent to answer questions. No promises or threats have been made to me or whatever. So I set him down. I said, Mr. Bro, I'm back from the hospital. Now, look, I didn't tell him she wasn't dead, right? He didn't know. I said, here's the deal. I said, I don't care if you talk to me or not. I said, I just got back from the hospital, and you're fucked. And I said, so here's the Redmond rights part. I said, if you want if you understand your Miranda rights, I want you to sign it and date it here. And he did. And he was, I think I scared him when I told him he was fucked. But he never asked. He never asked. He never said, is my wife alive? And then I got to the consent to question part, and I read it to him. I said, if you want to answer questions, then sign this part here that you understand. I haven't threatened you, and blah, 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 blah. And so he signed it, and he sits back in his chair, and he's looking at me. I said, listen, there's no doubt in the world that you ran over your wife 3 times. And he's just looking at me. And I said, I've got every neighbor out there, including but not limited to the ones who held you down and scuffed you up a little bit in the driveway. He said, yeah, that's fucked up. They didn't have to do that to me. And I was thinking, really? In my mind, right? And so now I got to play him a little bit, y'all. I mean, even though she's not injured, and the baby is alive, and it is a miracle, I want this piece of shit to go to prison. And so I told him, I said, listen, I've got all the statements, okay? I said, and all your neighbors out there, I don't know what y'all's history is or whatever, if they like you or they don't like you. And he said, they're assholes. I said, well, I mean, I can understand that. I said, but all of them didn't make up the story about you running over your wife, your pregnant wife, 3 times. I said, now, I want you to think about this. And then, he signed the consent to question part, obviously. I said, I want you to think about this. We go before the jury, and this goes to trial, and your wife's dead, and the baby's dead, and they hear from all these witnesses, whether you like them or not, whether y'all got beefs or whatever, you and your neighbors, but they say how y'all came outside screaming and hollering, and you were backing up to leave, and she's standing in front of the Jeep, and you ran the fuck over her, right? They all saw it. And you ran over her. I said, then you put the shit in reverse, and you run over her again? She's pregnant. 6 months, dude. And then you put the shit in drive again, you run over her again, and shit, it's my guess, unless you tell me otherwise, and that you would have ran over her again a 4th time. And I said, yeah, I mean, dude, you're going to get people in that jury, a jury of your peers. That's not what you want. I said, a jury of your peers that are married or have kids of their own, they think this could have been their daughter or their unborn baby or their grandkid or whatever. And I said, most people, when they get in arguments with their spouse at 8 o'clock in the morning, they don't fucking run over them once, twice, much less 3 times. I said, now, what do you think they're going to do? I said, they're going to be out for blood. I said, your ass is going to prison forever, if not the death penalty. Now, there's nothing that says I can't lie to them, y'all. I wasn't threatening them with the death penalty. I'm just saying, basically kind of a hypothetical, if you will. And I said, Mr. Bro, I said, look, I don't think you're a monster, right? I don't think you're the face of evil. I said, those Jeeps like that, it's a stick, right? And so, meaning, y'all, it wasn't an automatic. And I said, but you have to explain how you put it in first gear and ran over her, and then put it in reverse and ran over her, and then put it in first gear and ran over her again. I said, if it was an accident, you need to tell me it was an accident. I said, otherwise, nobody's going to have mercy on you. The judge is not going to have mercy on you. No one's going to have mercy on you. You ran over not only your wife, but your unborn kid. And he sits there and he's looking at me. And I think it kind of clicked on him. You see the light bulb go on his head. I'm not saying he was the sharpest tool in the shed, but you see the light bulb go on his head, and he's like, well, yeah. But you know what? It was an accident. I said, well, tell me about that. Basically, I just wanted to confess to it, y'all. Any type of confession is better than no confession, even though I had all the eyewitnesses. And actually, a bullshit confession on this case, it makes it even more damning on him, right? I said, so tell me what happened. And he said, well, we were arguing, and I was told her I was leaving her, and I was backing out of the driveway, and she was at the hood of the Jeep hollering at me, and he said, I hit the, I thought I hit the brakes, but I must have hit the clutch and the brake, and somehow I accidentally put it in the to forward. I said, what happened? So I ran over. I said, okay. And now he still never asked me, is she alive or is the baby alive? And I said, okay, so it was an accident. He said, yeah, definitely an accident. I said, well, okay, well, look, I can understand maybe it being an accident. You maybe in the heat of the moment, you got your faculties messed up and you ran over forward.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser-cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
He said, yeah. I said, but what about backing over again? And he kind of got quiet. I said, it's an accident going forward. Was it an accident when you backed over again? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was an accident. He said, I accidentally pushed the clutch in and put it in reverse, and then I backed over again. It sure was an accident, detective. He said, I didn't mean to do it. And I said, okay. I said, so the first one being an accident, first time you ran over going forward, I think, maybe, possibly, yeah, okay. The second time, I said, that's a little bit harder. I said, but you know what? It's believable. You maybe freaked and your hands weren't doing what your mind was telling you to, whatever, and you were just trying to leave and you backed over. He said, yeah, that's what happened, man. That's what happened. And I said, but what about the third time? And he looked at me. He said, well, that was an accident too. I said, so the first one, That's a stretch. I said, the second one is a real huge stretch. I said, tell me what happened the third time. He said, I accidentally, I thought I was still in reverse and I gave it gas, but I must have put it in first and I ran over again. I said, okay. I said, the third one, that's it's tough. It's just going to be tough for anybody to believe. He said, well, that's what happened. And I don't give a fuck what they believe. And he kind of started getting a little pissy with me. And he said, you know what? I don't give a fuck about all this. And I said, well, you know what? You better give a fuck. And I knew I wasn't going to get any more out of me, y'all. And what I told him was, I said, Mr. Bray, you're under arrest for attempted second-degree murder of your wife by running over her, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I said, the real fucked up thing about this whole situation is you've never asked me, not one time, was your wife or your baby alive. You never asked me how they were doing. You never asked me anything. I said, and I just told you you're under arrest for attempted second-degree murder. I said, you didn't even ask me, why is it attempted and not first-degree murder or, second-degree murder straight up? And he said, because I don't give a fuck. And I said, well, good. You take that shit to the jury, cuz I'm done with you. You can go fuck yourself. And then, the gloves were off. I wasn't playing nice with him, right? So I booked him in. And shit, man, the truth of the matter is, other than some tire track, other than some bruising, when I spoke with the wife, she was totally fine. Absolutely, totally fine. And not an injury to her. Now, you talk about miracles and angels wrapping her up. I don't know. The whole family said it was a miracle. The doctor said it's a miracle. And I'm telling you, in all my years of seeing crazy shit, it was a miracle. There's no way she shouldn't be dead. No way that baby shouldn't be dead. But they weren't. And he was booked in. I do not know what happened with the charges, but I do know that this wasn't their first rodeo on the arguments and the domestic violence stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of times the people, I call it the vicious wheel or the cycle, if you will. They start out nice and then they get it drunk or whatever. They get into an argument and the argument goes and goes and goes till it blows up until the violence starts or whatever. And then one of them gets arrested. And then after the arrest, the one that gets arrested promises them the moon and swoons them off their feet and romances them and whatever. And that person drops the charges. And I've seen it so many times. The same people we would arrest over and over and over again. But I used to tell the victim, I said, one day, I'm not going to be coming to talk to you. I'm going to be looking over your dead body because you're going to get killed and it's going to get out of hand. But on this one, I don't know what happened on the case. I assume she must have dropped the charges and they got back together. I don't remember that part. But I'll tell you what I do remember. I got a call probably a couple weeks later and it was from the supervisor of the jail. And I don't remember who it was, but one of the day shift supervisors. And they said, hey, Gerald Bro's getting out. And he's saying that he had, he got out. And then he went to get his Jeep. I think it had been released, but there was no crime scene part or whatever, but it went back to that tow truck yard. They called the same tow company to come get it. So they had to tell him where his vehicle was at. He went and got his vehicle, and then he drove back up to the jail, and he was up there raising hell. And they said, Woody, this dude's saying you took $500 out of his vehicle. I said, what? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I ain't taking any fucking money out of his vehicle. Tell him to go file a complaint. And I said, well, where did he say the money was? He said he had $500 in a Camel cigarette pack. I said, well, guess what? There was about 100 Camel cigarette packs. I do remember that, empty ones, trashed up on the floor in different places. I said, now we went through the packs and we inventoried the vehicle, and I never saw any cash money, and it's not on the inventory sheet. Otherwise, I would have remembered that. I said, you just tell him to go fuck himself, and tell him that, he can consider that as if he actually had $500 in the Jeep and it got taken after it got to the crime lab or from the tow truck driver or whatever. And I'm not saying he did, because I don't believe that he did. Or maybe in his mind he thought he did. I said, but you tell him, go file a complaint against me, and I'll stand for it, and I'll tell him to go fuck himself to his face, because I didn't take his $500. I don't believe he had $500. But if he did, then he can consider that the penance or a tithe to Jesus for not letting his wife and unborn baby be killed when he ran over once, twice, 3 times. Fuck him. So anyway, that's going to conclude the story. It's kind of an off the wall story, but I just think that I was thinking about the other day, or actually a couple weeks ago, telling y'all the story. Nobody would believe that, and that woman and the unborn baby were totally fine, and that this dumbass tried to take the out of an accident that he ran over once, twice, and 3 times. But anyway, I love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you. I'm gonna do some more patron stuff this month. We're gonna be sending y'all a little something in the mail for, I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and I hope y'all are staying safe and healthy. It's crazy times, right? I mean, man, I got friends, mentors, and lifelong friends dying from the damn COVID. And anyway, doesn't matter. I hope y'all stay safe. And Cindy and I appreciate you. Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast would not be where it is today without its patron members. And I appreciate that. And we love y'all. If we owe you something, let me know. You're not bothering me. I promise you. We want to give you the most that we can give you. If you have any other ideas for stuff that you want or whatever, let me know. And if we can make it happen for you, we'll make it happen, Captain. And that's it. So until next time, well, I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And until next time or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Peace.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?